Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars in today's video. It's a very complicated football team because people don't really understand the nuances and the context of what's currently going on. I'll start it off with a really fun fact. Over the last 4 games, Trevor Lawrence has thrown 8 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He's had 8 big-time throws and 3 turnover-worthy plays. He's also averaged 275 total yards per game in the last 4, alright? In that 4-game time frame, he's had 11 drops. His receivers have had 11 total drops. So here's the bottom line. They're getting made fun of because of their, 1-point win against Las Vegas this past weekend. And people are like, okay, well, Pete Carroll's the laughing stock of the league, blah, blah, blah. The Raiders suck. Here's just kind of a fun what-if scenario. I hate what-if scenarios, but it's important because winning is really the only thing that matters. And even if it was an ugly win, and if Trevor Lawrence was sick, and they were dealing with drops, and they were dealing with injuries, a win is still a win. The Las Vegas Raiders lost on a blocked field goal in the final seconds to the Chicago Bears many weeks ago, okay? If the Raiders won on Sunday against Jacksonville, let's say they convert their 2-point attempt, and they don't have their field goal attempt blocked against Chicago. My point just is, I get it, they're all hypotheticals. Las Vegas would be 4-4, and the Jaguars would also be 4-4. So football is truly a game of inches. People understand this, people know this, but they don't really add it up because it's just truly crazy how many different scenarios can happen all the time across the NFL. So Jacksonville's 5-3, and we're going to talk about Jakobi Meyers because I think he completely transforms this offense and finally gets some stability in that wide receiver room and in this offense in general. Here's the bottom line, and before we get into it, actually hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We haven't made a Jaguars video in a couple of weeks. I do apologize because you guys had your bye week and then the brutal loss to the Rams overseas. Trevor Lawrence, if you look at it, his 2025 ranks aren't the best, all right? He's 27th in yards per play. He's 29th in EPA. He's 32nd in touchdown rate, 29th in touchdown to interception rate at 9-6, 32% in completion percent over expected, 28th in accuracy. You can look at these statistics, and I do get it. What I care about with Jacksonville this season is winning, okay? Liam Cohn, the culture is completely different, and you obviously mean that in a positive way. The culture is just different. All right, there's happy vibes in Jacksonville. I just want to see this team win at least 9 games. That's literally it. I don't care if you have to win ugly against Las Vegas. I don't care if you have to play the CJ Stroudless Houston Texans and win that football game. I don't care how this team wins games. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars need a winning season. They need to make the playoffs. That's literally it. People have these Super Bowl aspirations, and obviously you want to have Super Bowl aspirations, and you want to have these great hopes. But at the end of the day, if you're in the playoffs, you have as good of a chance as everybody else to win all the way. But my point just is, when we zoom out at this Jacksonville team, and we see what they went through at this time last year, we see what they did in the offseason, all I care about is them making the playoffs. So even with an illness, 23 or 34, 220 yards. He threw a bad interception in the red zone, but he did rush for 2 touchdowns. So over the last 4 games, Trevor Lawrence is the 10th highest graded quarterback in the NFL per PFF. Now, here's where things get fun. Jakobi Meyers was just traded to Jacksonville in exchange for a 4th and 6th round pick, all right? Now, as we know, Travis Hunter is currently injured, all right? He's yet to really make like a huge impact. We've seen Brian Thomas Jr., and he's a rookie, right? You get my point. He's getting better every week. Brian Thomas Jr., we're starting to see him kind of turn over a new leaf. He's really struggled with drops. And it's just this inconsistency with the offense because of drops. Jacksonville feels like for the last couple of years just led the NFL in drops. Jakobi Meyers doesn't drop footballs, all right? Now, this season, 49 catches, 352 yards, but he's coming off a career year with a really bad quarterback room for Las Vegas last season. He caught 87 catches, 87 balls for over 1,000 yards. All right. The only really 2 positives with the Raiders offense 1 year ago was Brock Bowers, the rookie, and Jakobi Meyers. All right. Now, He actually started his career as an undrafted free agent with the New England Patriots. He led the team in receiving yards for 3 straight seasons. Goes, signs a deal with Las Vegas, 3 years, $33 million. Sorry, guys, I'm running out of breath here. Very passionate about this Jaguars team, even though I'm a Packers fan. Who doesn't want to live in Florida? Jakobi Meyers said he's very happy to be there, by the way. Signs a 3-year, $33 million contract. He's in the last year, by the way. He's averaged 65.5 receptions and 765 yards over his first full 6 seasons. He's also had 20 career touchdowns, plus 2 more rushing. I also saw a fun stat. I think he's got a perfect passer rating. I think he's like 6 of 7 with a touchdown as a passer. He's topped the 700-yard mark in every season since his second year in the NFL. Now, personally, just because I like fun stories, I always am a little bit more drawn and invested and intrigued and more of a fan of guys who come into the league undrafted, because I think they just have a chip on their shoulder, and I think it really is just a really big deal. And I think when you have these success stories, it's very cool. Now, the Raiders kind of wanted him to be a wide receiver number 1. That was kind of the thing when he hit free agency, is he's more of a higher wide receiver 2, a lower wide receiver 1. But obviously Jacksonville doesn't have that issue. Wide receiver 1 is BTJ, and you got Travis Hunter doing his thing when he comes back from his injury. Now, Meyers, this is the best part. Meyers has the 3rd lowest drop rate in the NFL since the start of 2024. That's huge. The Jaguars currently have a drop rate of 11.3%. Now, as a Packers fan, I feel your pain because we've dealt with this issue for the last couple of seasons. It changes games completely. When you sit here on a microphone and you're covering a 60-minute game and you say that drop was huge, changed the momentum, people are like, what? But when you're watching it, drops are huge momentum killers. It's just like sacks. They're just killers, okay? The Jags are dropping 1 out of every 9 passes Trevor Lawrence throws. That's not a good statistic. And in my opinion, that's what we're seeing, where they're 21st in scoring. They are 11th in rushing. They're doing a great job running the football, but they're 22nd in yards per play. They're 20th in touchdowns. They're around average in most offensive statistics outside of rushing yards per game. And I just think Jakobi Meyers comes in here and really raises this floor of the Jaguars offense. You have to keep in mind, as always, this time last year, 2 completely different teams. At the end of the day, even with an ugly 1-point win and an ugly 28-point loss overseas, Jacksonville's 5-3. All right, you've got 2 games against the Colts. You could sweep Houston on Sunday, which would be huge. You'd be 6-3, double positive, as they say in COD. And you've got 2 matchups against Tennessee. So I like the second half of the schedule. The first half was honestly kind of a gauntlet, and they got some really nice wins. Houston, San Francisco with Brock Purdy, Kansas City, obviously. Don't fade this Jaguars team, okay? They are still in it, and they're winning, all right? They snapped that 2-game win streak after a losing streak after the bye, and they're back in the winning circle. So, folks, thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Let me know your thoughts on the 5-3 Jags. Let me know your thoughts on the Jakobi Meyers trade, and we will see you soon. Peace.